A ghost light is an electric light left on stage in a theater when it is unoccupied, typically consisting of a bare bulb in a wire cage. It serves practical purposes for safety, helping people navigate the dark space, and is also associated with theatrical superstitions about ghosts. This is Ghost Lights, Stories from the Empty Stage.
What, like, it was, there's a lot to this. So, Grease comes to an end. You see, I was successful. A lot of publicity in the local town. A lot of people involved. Newspaper blew it up like it was.
Yeah,
like it
they
was.
did.
It turned to something I don't know if you were expecting it to have turned into. I think hopes. I mean, like you mentioned, you always had like such high expectations because you never took no for an answer. So
Yes,
when
exactly.
things were that successful, your mentality is always like, of course it is, of course it is. Now what? Keep going. Like,
Yeah, and then how do you outdo that?
yeah.
There was always that thing that happened every single year, right? It's like, okay, well, how do you go backwards,
So
because you kind of have to, I mean, which when we go through our resume and we go through, it's like, okay, well, if you take a look at the progression of the types of productions that are done, right, you see, like, yes, in the middle was Fiddler, which was gigantic as well. That's its own story.
unreal too.
Yeah,
So
but
Grease comes to an end. You're looking to say, hey, we gotta do this again. But you're also saying, I'm gonna do things my way. Too many hands in the pot. Too
Yeah.
many people trying to call the shots. Too many directors in the cutting
Yeah.
room. And so you're like, hey, I'm gonna do this. I can do it. I don't need all these outside people trying to pull strings from whatever direction. So you came up and decided Little Shop.
well, I decided, okay, so, well, this is funny because the music director, who we know and who you will have on, when I brought it to him, because of course his band did the music for Grease, right? So, I mean, in the beginning we had live bands all the time, right? Which is another whole thing, right? But I brought Little Shop to him, and I brought him the music, and he said, "Are you nuts? Like, are you crazy? Do you have any idea how hard this music is?" I'm like, "No, I don't, but I don't care. I still want to do it." So I said, okay, but so again, same thing. We took pretty much 2 years to stage that because there was so much to do with Grease, especially with a smaller group of people, and to make sure that it was done right. So the first year was like a lot of, making plans to make plans, and setting things down.
So how did you pick? How did you cast? Where did you come up with this dream team?
Well, from the people that I had worked with in Greece, plus people that I had my eye on because through the festivals, I formed the cast. And as you know, I don't believe in auditioning, and we will get into that because the auditions should be the rehearsals. You need to start working with the kids first, and that's how I auditioned, right? Which people couldn't understand that part because they had a different perspective, right? So you work with the kids first, and then you realize, okay, they have what it takes to do this role because you've been able to do all kinds of exercises with them to say, yeah, this person could do this role. So
we can talk about how I got there, but I
was gonna say that.
From my perspective of this, though, I think it's important. Like I wanted it. Like I wanted to be part of this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of factors that was working against me being there, right? But I think from the outside looking in, one of the things that always kind of surprised me was the fact that a lot of the cast that I knew in Greece or that I knew were already talking about doing the next show. Like it was a
Yeah.
buzz. Like there was a buzz going around school. I was grade 7, grade 8. Um, I was young, and but I knew like one of my best friends was in Greece,
Yeah.
and I'm like, but I grew up doing small little traveling theater group that would come through town and
Yeah.
doing this. And it was
We,
like,
you know what? We
so
can
I
discuss
always
them later. That would be
I
great.
I always that was I had already considered this was my thing. And then
Yeah.
I saw this, I'm like, why am I not there? How
Yeah.
do I get in there? But the thing that always impressed me was a lot of the people that were involved in it, and it's almost like I was almost annoyed because it's like you don't understand how good you have it. Like it's like you guys don't even want to be there. I mean, they want to be there, but it's
Some
like
people
you
didn't
don't
want to be there.
you
Yeah.
don't want it as bad as I want that, right? And I'm like, and it's just like, oh yeah, not a big deal. Like I'm going to practice rehearsal tonight. Like, is there? I bet there are going to be lots of food and junk food stuff. I'm just like, wait, what? And I'm like, and I didn't know. I was shy. I was very like, I wasn't very verbose. I wasn't very like I loved acting because it was a side of me that I wasn't who I was in real life, right? And I just remember looking at a lot of these friends or a lot of these cast members from the Grease days and being like, you don't even understand how good you have it. Like you don't understand, and or just how it was just kind of like it was kind of just like, oh yeah, well I've got rehearsals tonight, or like it was kind of like not a big deal, like no big deal kind of thing. And I'm like, man, like
Well, and
that's a
if I
lot of-
remember correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this friend that you know went to me and said, "Hey, there's this guy, my friend, and he's really interested." So,
Well,
of course,
I think I twisted his arm.
or, yeah,
You go freaking talk to Cindy right now. You go find her. Like, let her know. Like, if she can use me, I'll do whatever. Like, I was willing to do whatever, right? Because I'm just like, I just need to be involved in this. Like I've did music festival, played piano. Like but band was starting up for me, so
yeah,
like that was one of those things where I was starting to learn an instrument. But when I saw this, and one of my good friends from elementary school is in this circle of people, it wasn't that I had. I mean, yes, I wanted to be with my friends, and yes, I wanted to do what they were doing, but it was mostly like you're doing something that I should already be doing, like and so I didn't want to invite myself, but I mean, I was drooling with.
but I
jealousy.
think and I think at the time, because I always interviewed people individually, right? That was kind of my thing, which was part of the audition as well. That you came and we had the conversation and we
Well, I
talked
remember,
about
do you remember
we
the
coached.
phone call? Do you remember the phone call?
No, I don't remember the phone call.
So I remember. I think you had called, and I feel like my mom had answered the phone or something, and you're like asking for me. I don't know if maybe you talked to her first, but I think eventually one point the phone got handed back between my mom and I or something, and I think you like reassured her like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And like I'd be interested to meet with Mike and talk with him and kind of. You didn't ever give the. It was never an audition. It was never. It was more like, hey, let's have a conversation. Do you want to come over? We can have a chat. And you set up an appointment.
Yeah.
Like come at this time. And I remember just being. I wasn't sure because my family was very strict around what I used my time for, and how I utilizing what I did, and that I was focusing on school and all this stuff. So I wasn't sure what my mom was going to say in that situation, but I don't think I really gave her much of a choice because I think eventually I was like, I'm going.
Well, and
just-
then what I had to talk to each of the kids about, and then eventually the parents, which created a lot of problems, is Little Shop is not a kids show, really.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as like the themes, and a lot of things aren't, really pretty. So I had convinced myself that I wasn't going to sacrifice a script and the beauty of how a script was written and why it was written by dumbing it down, right?
Yeah.
It is, the script is what it is. So that means you're going in there and you're doing stuff that's maybe not so pretty or that you wouldn't do in real life. So trying to make sure that everybody understood that, you know, like you're going to go there and
I think what people need to know, it wasn't an adult cast. Like, I think Darcy.
No.
I think like myself and a few of us were probably 14, 15 by the time that
Yeah.
show was done, right?
yeah,
So that's the thing I find really interesting is that we weren't taking on a junior production of a show. We had the full script with the full.
yeah. Now,
Like I remember years after we had done Little Shop, I think we were listening to the soundtrack, and there's been so many revisions of it, and I remember losing my cool, freaking out. We're driving somewhere, and I was like, "Wait a minute! No! This wasn't ever in the show, or they changed this, or all of like." I mean,
Yeah.
I played Mr. Mushnick eventually, jumping to the
Yeah.
case, but there's a song called Mushnick and Son.
Yeah.
I remember listening to the revised version of it.
yeah, that's
And
right.
being like, nope, I know this song word for word. Like, they changed this. And you're like, yeah, it's a revision. Like, nah, that's not okay. Like, right? So okay, theater kids. Was it, I saw this as a group of people, a group of kids that they were just in the right place at the right time for some of them. And then for me, it was like, well, I saw myself as a theater kid,
Yeah.
but the combination of everyone was so like surreal. Like what was that? Was that a fluke, or was that like what you
Yeah,
expecting?
yeah. No, I think the stars aligned. Like I mean, I think the fact that I like vetted a lot of things, which I mean, as we go along, we'll get into like how I vetted, and when I had to do a production where I had to audition, which we will talk about further on. And I did it because I was expected to do it. And it was proven, it just proved to me that my approach worked much better. You do not just make a decision on who is going to be the cast member based on who can hit every note and who can do a couple steps in the audition or whatever, that you can't base it on that. There has to be more involved, right? They have to be team players, and you don't decide that in an audition. You can't do it that way. That's why it was a program, right? It's a program, so you're working with things first, and then you work into the casting, right? It doesn't. I mean, I know the world believes in auditions. I mean, American Idol, didn't that come out around the same time?
I almost feel like there's a time and a place for it. This wasn't the place for it. Like,
No.
and I think it was because of you knew us. So I mean, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but at least for me, like it's not, in a way I felt I was in a way scouted too, because I didn't even know if you even knew I existed. Like, I played piano in festival with your own children. I did small town traveling musical theater company
Yeah.
that would come every year. I would do it with your kids. Like, so I
Yeah.
knew your kids. I'm a year older than your oldest, but like we were always in
Yeah.
those opportunity circles that would
Yeah.
arise.
Yeah.
And so I knew them, but I didn't even know if you knew me. So when I'm talking to my friend who had been part of Grease and been part of this through acquaintance with your family, I'm like, I didn't even know how to prove myself to you, right? And it wasn't until, and here's you know how you're talking about 9/11 and getting Little Shop, our appointment, our meeting, I I remember in order for me to get there, I had to ride my bike. It was October, I
Yeah,
think,
that
and
sounds about
it.
right.
But if you're familiar with the Alberta prairies during this time of year, it gets dark faster. So by the
Yes.
time I got there, it was still light out, and I remember being like I'm at the right place, and like we didn't have phones with GPS, so
No.
like I had to write down the address on a piece of paper and follow the street signs, and I knew, but like I already knew where you lived because it wasn't like I wasn't already stalking your house to be like let me in, let me practice because we would for viewers we would have practices at your house, and I knew that.
Initially,
I knew my friends were going to the house for rehearsals and in the little shop days. So I knew where you were. But of course, I didn't want to end up on the wrong street. I mean, I grew up in this town of what, like 20 streets, so it's not like I
too
could really
many
be lost. But
streets.
I remember taking it so seriously. Like, I gotta be there on time. I can't be late. And I had to take my bike because, like, it's just how it had to be. I couldn't get a ride. I don't know. But I laugh because I mean, we could talk about that meeting if you remember it. I can tell you what I remember of it. But afterwards, having the 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 breakdown of what your plan was, how you saw you could utilize me, what part were considering me for, or that you wanted me to be involved with, and the reality of how this is an adult show with adult themes. It's a comedy. It's hilarious. If you haven't seen Little Shop of Horrors, go watch it. Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I know that like Off Broadway had done a bunch of shows late, like in the past
Yeah.
10 years,
Yeah.
and some really big names out there. But it's neat having been part of that. But I remember after the meeting being like, okay, well, thanks for having me, and I'm being like being on cloud nine, really, and
No pun
like,
intended.
and just being like, wow, like I think I'm in, like I think I'm in, and but getting on my bike, and this is so weird, getting on my bike and going home, it's almost like the universe was fighting me because it was pitch dark, right? Shouldn't
Yeah.
I like at this? It wasn't. I wasn't there late, but it was late enough that at this time of year where there and street lights were around, but that corner of town, like it was dark and
Yeah.
the moon was like vivid, like huge bright, and I felt terrible because like I was so excited, but I felt like this is gonna sound strange, but there's some force. There
Yeah.
is some universal force or eerie like presence that was just stalking me like
Yeah.
on my way home, and I just remember I ripped home as fast as I could because I was like I'm being followed, like something's following me, and I could never really place what it was, but in my brain I always felt like I have to escape this because I need to live on this high of like I knew something great was gonna happen. Like I wanted it so badly, and I think I eventually I got because I got it. I'm like something has to work against me, and lots of things did. I almost quit the show. I almost quit the show. I think I left a letter. Like, do you remember this? Anyways, that's the year there. I swear I did. I think I I brought you a letter because I didn't know how to tell you, but like, and then you, maybe I've fabricated this, but like, I just remember thinking like this. It was almost like I wanted this so badly, but I felt like everything was working
Right.
against
I
me.
think, yeah, you had some real personal challenges. Yeah.
Yeah. But going back to our question, I think really was like the combination of all of us was very like there's me, the neurotic, crazy theater kid who I don't know. You never really labeled us, right? Like some of us were dancers, some of us were singers, some of us were actors, comedians, this and that. But I don't. It's weird because it's almost like we were kind of a perfect fit. And maybe that's my delusion talking, but it was almost like I remember thinking like, this works. and this works really good, and we all offer something, we all contribute to something, and really, it didn't. It although it worked, and we all worked really well together. We were such a strange group of. I always say the word misfit, but outside of it,
Yeah. Well, a
like
lot of you had nothing to do with each other outside of theater. You had your own, like, completely independent lives where you didn't connect at all, except for during that time,
yeah,
right? And it had its own, so it did kind of create a bubble. And I think a lot of people were different people outside of theater, right? They
and
had a different, I don't want to say persona, but they had a different lifestyle going on outside of theater.
when we walked through the doors, whether it was your house, whether it was the store, whether wherever we were, like there for me at least, and I think it's safe to say for others too, whatever was happening on the outside world, we kind of left there. Like at least I
Yeah.
did. Like yeah, we come in and we're fighting and bickering, and some of us don't get along and some of us do,
Yeah.
and the drama never stays out. But
Yeah.
it's almost like we're walking to another world, like
Yeah.
and
And it also helped that I had chips and jujubes and all that
oh,
for after school snacks.
and we would always no one would ever eat the black ones. And you're like, who leaves the black ones? And we're like, we don't like those ones. And then the conversation is like, can you just get them without the black ones? And but yeah, you lured us in with
Yeah.
popping chips.
Come
And we're like,
on, children.
how
I
many
am
people?
I am the witch with
I
the
can
candy house. Come
tell me,
inside and I
and we're
will
all.
capture
And we,
you.
but isn't that? It's funny to think like our whole lives were told like don't take candy from strangers. But if they've got potato chips of like numerous flavors, that goes out the window. We'll go wherever you want. You want us to go into some eerie, creepy attic? Yeah, as long as there's bowls of chips, we'll go, right? And then it's like, well, and then the whole thing of like, if so and so jumped off a bridge, would you? Yeah, if there's chips, I'll go into the creepy attic with people if there's bowls of if I know there's going to be even at the thought of it. Like I don't know. I can't even think. I'm jumping ahead, but I can't even think. There's times where we come to the shop where our second rehearsal place was in later years. Coming up the stairs, and people are like,
There's
this
no
is
chips.
I'm out of here.
How come you
You are-
didn't get chips? I didn't
Yes.
have time to get chips for you
This
guys.
monkey isn't gonna dance. I'm not dancing until I'm fed. I've had a long day slaving at school. Which is the other thing too. Practices were regular, and
Yeah.
we would be after school, and so you'd see this. Oh, that which is also weird. Like sometimes I'm so glad I was in it, but I also think about like I imagine people in these businesses as we're walking downtown,
I know.
seeing this congregation of these kids all showing up
Yeah.
like on bikes or on scooters or walking or whatever, just all walking into this store, being like, what is happening? Right? Like, and the people didn't understand what it was. Like, I mean, and that's part of the nostalgia that I love.
Right. And I
Is
didn't,
that-
and because I didn't advertise it, like, right, so people didn't know what it was. And that's another whole story, too, because I ended up somehow, someone told the reporter at the Standard that I had this thing going on. So he came in to see me and, like, at the storefront, right? Because, right? And asked if he could interview me. And I said, well, I don't advertise. And he's like, well, why? And I said, well, because it's not that kind of thing. And he's like, well, I don't understand. So I said, I'll give you an interview. I'll give you an interview. I promise I'll give you an interview. I said, but it's off the record. And he's like, okay. So he came up to the attic. No chips. I didn't give him chips. And I told him the whole thing. And I told him like what the purpose was. I told him what it was all about, and he was like, but this is a story. This has to get out. And I'm like, no, because it needs to stay in a safe environment. Like, you know, and he respected that. We ended up being really good friends. And of course, he covered the show. And I mean, I'll be given the standard digs all the way through because 100% every single reporter that went through over 25 years, I had a good relationship, and they always covered our show. We always had great coverage, right? I mean, they were great.
One of the reporters in Fiddler, like as
oh yes,
yeah, like
yes, we did.
Yeah. So for those of you that are tuning in from other places in the world and don't understand this little bubble where we're talking about, our small town had a newspaper called The Standard.
Vermilion Standard.
Vermilion Standard. And
1904, maybe? I don't know. Maybe. That's a little too early. I've got their first initial thing.
This is before the time of like constant news, online, internet. People didn't have cell phones in their hands. Although it's funny to talk about cell phones because we were in the right place for cell phones for all of this. That's a different story. Yeah. But if you needed information this town, if you wanted to know what was what, you either had to get in the gossip mill of everyone like yipping and yapping, or you would get the Standard. Yeah. And that's where legit news, that's how we knew what was happening.
Or posters.
Right? I mean, it was, but that goes back to the fact that it wasn't like an open audition. It wasn't at first, it wasn't like, come and bring your kids, come, like it wasn't like a recruitment thing ever. It was always, it never started that way. And I think
it ended up getting that way, but that is another, an evolution to the story. But
do you remember the first, going back to the little shop in your house, one of the places of fondest memories of my childhood, do you remember that first rehearsal? Do you remember when you had handpicked everyone, you did your casting, and then you're like, all right, this is day one, we're all gonna sit in your living room, Mike's gonna lose his wallet in your couch for 5 months. Like, do you remember what that first rehearsal was like?
You know, I have memories of the rehearsals, but I have as much memory of the improv that we would do as the opening games. That one really sticks in my mind. But a lot of the rehearsals that we had, especially not for the like, I guess, main cast, which I really don't believe in, which we'll talk about, but the ensemble.
I just remember sitting in your living room. Maybe that wasn't one of the rehearsals I would have to go to. So you had cast me as Mushnik, the shopkeeper, the plant shopkeeper, the boss of the place. Yeah. And I think one of my earliest memories of group rehearsal was sitting around in your living room, and just going through the prologue. Like I think we spent like 5 months
on the prologue. Like, it's huge.
Look, I just remember being like, "Are we ever gonna learn the rest of this show?" Like, but it was sung. It was so tightly choreographed. It was so It was out of this world. One of those things where it was not that it was ever boring, but it was kind of like, okay, I think we get it. And but it was like, do it again, run it again, like spaghetti runs, or like make a mess up. We start at the beginning, and with the CD player on the floor, be like, nope, play again, go again. That was wrong. You came in late, like, but our musical expertise of like the little handle on the CD player and bringing it in and putting the audio, the soundtrack, the voicing tracks, and I don't know. I do remember that, and I remember practices. I just wanted to be there so badly too, right? So I never was bored. Like, it was, I always looked forward to it, and I wish I could remember what day it was. Like, it was always the same day of the week, right? and
I feel like Tuesday, but I
yeah,
don't
it's
know.
Tuesdays or
Because
Wednesdays.
what I had to do is I had, everybody was involved in so many different things that I had to coordinate a day that was going to work for everybody. And then that's one heck of a challenge, right?
Yeah, yeah. So when did when did it stop feeling like, hey, I'm doing a show, like I'm doing Little Shop of Horrors, I'm directing it. When did it change from being a show to feeling like this is something bigger? Like this,
Oh, well, like I said before, I felt it was going to be big in a way that, we're going to come to understand what we mean by that it was
yeah,
big. It was when on 9/11. Like
from
I knew then,
day
like that.
one,
Yeah, day one, day
your
one.
intuition.
Yeah, that definitely. I didn't have any doubt in my mind
Yeah.
about
And
that.
I think for me that little potato riding his bike down the road as fast as he can going home, being like, I think this is something,
Yeah.
feeling that weight of like this is something big, right? Like do I
Well, it's a
like
case of it's. I think it's a case of not. I don't know that people are going to understand the word big, but it's a change in your life's direction. Like something is changing in your life. It's, and I think that is the feeling because change is hard for everyone. And you can
you
feel this change coming. You don't know what it is. I know how it's going to manifest, but it's change.
do you feel
And
the change was like overnight? Like do you feel like it was a sudden the 9/11 like experience, but do you feel like the it was something
when the
where
lights when the lights came on for Greece, it was very explosive. It was very magical. It was very explosive. I've always said and maintained, and we'll talk about that a lot. There's an energy. We all know there's an energy that's produced from that, and that energy was so big that it, created, the audience really weren't sure what to do with it, especially when it first, exploded. So when you're in the midst of that, yeah, you just know.
do you,
I'm not sure that the people on stage knew. I do know the people in the audience that came to me knew, that because they felt that. I think the youth that were involved, and I think the same goes for you guys a lot of the time, is that you were in your same space, your safe bubble, that you weren't maybe aware of anything that was happening on the outside of you, outside of, your bubble during rehearsal times or on stage, that you maybe just weren't necessarily aware of all of the other things that were happening.
but I think the biggest part of this is that it kind of the origin story of Vermilion Theatre Productions. It it wasn't. There's a lot to that got us to where it got to that day. Like from the day that the curtains opened on Grease or Little Shop. Like I feel like it was one of those, like it was lightning in a bottle. Really, what it was.
Yeah.
Um, you had created something, and I think you had the hopes and aspirations of, and the know-how, the knowledge that this is bigger than what people are, and I feel like that becomes a common theme for the next several years after, is like
Yeah.
people try to grasp what this was, and it was so, I I mean, cut to frantic yelling conversations of dealing with people that just don't get it. Like
Yeah.
they don't understand. Like you're already 5 miles ahead, and they're trying to grasp at something that we can't stop. Things, the wheels are in motion, and they started going fast. Right?
Yeah.
You say 2004 for Little Shop. that blows my mind because I graduated 2006.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, there's like, I just think within that time frame, like even
We
putting
did a lot of stuff in that time frame.
putting those years together, like trying to organize the timeline of what
Yeah.
you had accomplished. I was like, how is it possible?
Well, I think one thing I have to make sure that you do is don't say that I accomplished it because everyone accomplished it together.
Yeah.
Obviously I couldn't have done it if you guys didn't
Well, it
have what
takes
you
a
had.
team, right?
And if I didn't have like the support staff of my prop person who was magical and she is a wonder,
Oh
if
yeah.
I had not had her, if I had not had my music director, if I didn't have those kinds of things, and if I didn't have the certain parents that I had that were so dedicated and, would just work overtime to make sure that things work, so it's a team effort. It's not just about me. And that should probably come at the beginning of this
Yeah.
of this session,
But,
is because
but you, looking at it, you're fair. Looking at it is, you're viewed as the production director, the theater company like head. It's almost like all of everything that happens kind of gets put on your shoulders, but
yeah.
the reality of the situation, it was never really that way. Sometimes you would feel that way, and a lot of us would swoop in later years. They'd be
Yes.
like, "Oh, let us carry some of that for you.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Let us take that in." And
Yeah.
I think like I don't even know if we can count how often you and I would meet, musical
Yeah.
director, like choreographers, like we it went from being, I think one of the questions is, it went from not being so much a cast as it turned into a family, and I think that's kind of where things are gonna go, right? The reality of, you can't be creating anything this artistic, this creative, this expressive, unless everyone's on the same page,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's what really made things work, is that we all were having fun, we all were were contributing and sharing our skills and abilities and talents. And I don't think we understood what it was in the beginning.
No.
At least for cast members, we didn't understand what it was.
Well, and to be fair, and I think this is a really good thing to end on, is I think anyone that went through the company, and I think if I was to say how many kids that I worked with, it has to be easily well over 200 or 250 people, kids. Some of them long-term members from beginning to end, and some of them were, just there occasionally. That a lot of them didn't understand, even when they were there and when they left. And there's still people now that were involved all the way through that may say, no, I didn't have that experience. I didn't feel that way. It's fair to say that, because everybody's going to have their own feelings. I feel like a lot of people have short-term memories or long-term memory problems, and they can't actually remember, how things were in their youth. But that's just my own opinion. It doesn't have to be theirs. But I think, each person that you talk to is going to come up and have a different perspective as to what it meant to them or what it did for them, right?
And that brings the curtain down on our very first episode of Ghost Lights. A huge thank you to Cindy Miller for joining me and for helping us to step back into those early days when something truly amazing took shape on a little prairie stage. In our next episode, we'll dive deeper into the spark and chemistry that became Vermilion Theatre Productions. The friendships, the chaos, the cursed dress rehearsals, and the strange little magic that took a group of misfit theater kids into something unforgettable. Until next time, keep one light on for the stories that still haunt the stage.